Welcome to C Suite Sherpas, where we shine a spotlight on business and experts and resources that you should know. I'm your host, Ron Partridge, and I'm excited today to have Ron Klinger, founder of Motivational Transitions. So welcome, Ron.
Glad to be here with you, Ron.
I was going to say, I think we'll rename the show for today. It's the Ron and Ron Show. Just a little bit about Motivational Transitions. They provide customized management and leadership development programs and coaching. So of course, we're going to dive into that. Exactly what does that mean? So that would be my first question, Ron. What do you do? Who do you do it for? And how do you do it?
Amen. Yeah, thanks, Ron. So honored to be a part of the podcast here today for the CEO Sherpas. Again, Ron Klinger with Motivational Transitions. You talk about management, leadership, coaching. Really, in a nutshell, my background's organizational development. So I look at the totality of an organization from the leadership to all the way down to individual contributors. And it's all about creating an environment where employees can thrive. And it's by empowering managers and leaders to give them the right tools and resources to make a positive impact on their team members. Far too often, organizations don't prepare people for positions of management and leadership. They just kind of push them in the deep end. The problem is that can be quite costly when it comes to employee engagement and, worse off, employee retention, if those managers aren't engaged in a positive way, showing up a positive way, really in creating that good experience for their employees. So I assist with that. It's a lot that goes into it, but really in essence, it's how do you help the people grow and the organization grow, and I partner to that success.
So, being a former executive for a lot of years, how do you find the readiness of the executives to lead that kind of change? Because to create that kind of culture, they have to create it. And are they ready? And what do you do for them to get them ready?
That's a great question. And so it's a struggle. I look at that audience into three buckets, Ron. The first bucket are going to be the absolute resistors. There's not a lot I can do unless I have a champion inside that organization or a referral that helps to get inside that organization. The second bucket are those that really are like, well, I'm not sure what I need to do, but I know I need to do something. And so by having an opportunity to ask questions, to be a part of a dialogue and a process as to where you are now as an executive, where you're trying to get your company and your business, whether it's in the very short term or the long term, that could even include up to an exit. It just depends on each story. And then the last one, are the people that know they need the support. And typically then that works through their HR managers, HR leaders that typically are searching for outside folks come in to really assist and help to provide some structure to that learning and that growth opportunity that they're so busy managing the day-to-day, but they realize and know we need someone to help us because we're not able to do what we need to do. A lot of times that comes from feedback from their employees and their individual contributors. I want to go, I want to grow, I want to be a part of this organization. And so a lot of it is also responsive to the heat and that call that comes from their employee base.
So what's the key indicator that they actually need to help? Is it employee engagement? Is it revenues down, performance is poor?
Yeah, Ron, that's a great question. There's a couple of things from my experience. So I've been doing this for quite a while, internally in HR, but also externally as a consultant. And a couple of things that come ready to mind. One of it is also it ties into your customer satisfaction levels, right? Are customers happy? Is your organization experiencing churn? Why I start there is because everyone needs to be in business to make profit and earn, right? You've got financial goals, you got payroll goals, right? Whatever the case might be for a business or an organization. But if you're finding that customers are churning, you have to ask yourself why. You need to pay attention to that. My experience, it's not always the case, but in a large number is their experience with whomever they're servicing them, whether it is a direct contact, whether it's a sales rep, regardless of the rank and file. If that's not good, they're going to seek whatever you do from someone else. So it then starts to bubble up. It's like, well, hey, we're losing customers, we're losing revenue. We've got a problem in our employee base. Our employees aren't engaged. The number one reason for employees to be engaged is that they've got an effective manager and leader leading them. So it kind of all points itself into a bit of a cycle that I'm actually documenting and writing about, but producing my first book called Creating Superfans for Your Business. And it's built on that principle that you've got all-star managers and leaders in your organization, that because they're all-star managers and leaders, they have a great following and engagement from their team members, AKA your superfans, people who are willing to wear your brand, people who are willing to go out and about to do whatever it takes to be your ambassador, right? If your employees are your best ambassadors, your best brand representatives, you're going to win the game, which then, to your point earlier, creates the culture. And then you get to figure out for your organization, how do you track your data to make sure that your organization is being successful and doing the right things right, not doing all things. And so I help with that whole entire cycle, but that comes back to all-star managers and leaders to create the data, to engage employees, to ensure culture. It's always going, but you got to assess it to know where you stand. Because if you want people crazy like me who are willing to be a brand ambassador, in this particular case for the Houston Texans, who are willing to go out, travel, buy crazy, wild, big, oversized ball caps, wouldn't it be great if your employees walked around like this for your organization? And that's where I think it really gets tied to the big picture.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hey, in preparation, you said, project the brand. The book is about super fans. I'm one that follows along. I've got a lot of the folks here that I love, and it becomes part of a family, and the fact that we spend so much time at work, we spend more time at work than we do with our own families. People are becoming more and more selective of whom they work for and where they go to work. And if you don't have that culture, if you don't have that vibe, if you don't have where people want to come to work, and especially now that there's so many orders for returning to the office.
Yeah, and I know I can tell you for sure, if you've got fully engaged employees and they are motivated, they will represent you to the best that you can be represented.
Well, and that's a huge part, Ron. It's not only the representation, but if the managers and leaders give the right level of empowerment, then they're also agile, which means they've identified a problem or a challenge or a solution. And because those managers have empowered them, they're not being micromanaged, then they feel like they're a part of the solution and they're valued to solve the problem without having to go through mother and father may I's to be able to take care of the customer base. And that's what customers want. Customers want, I got a problem or I got a challenge, I need you to solve it. And if you can't solve it, someone else can. So you churn and burn on the customer side if it's not working, and then you're going to churn and burn on the employee side, and you have an employee retention issue if none of these things are aligned. And so that's what I work to do. That's what I help with, and it absolutely is amazing when it works.
So besides the hat and the gear here, what sets you apart from others that may do very similar things?
Yeah, let me get back to reality here for that question.
By the way, I love the passion.
Well, I think, Ron, the first thing is I bring 20 years of experience in doing this. Every career I've had in my profession is about being of service to others. I got a servant heart. Now, granted, I know there's a lot of people out there, but bringing that 20 years of experience, bringing that targeted laser approach, what I think really separates me, I've got a little bit of a counseling background. I am not a licensed counselor. I'll be the first. That's not me. But I learned very early on in my professional career that there is amazing, amazing power in being present and actively listening. I don't ever come at a solution with a customer because it's in my best interest, right? And whoever it is that I'm called upon to serve, whether it's at the C-suite or an HR professional, they don't have someone to do the organizational development and the training and the development of their team members. And so when I look at it, I feel that I thrive in being present, and when I offer solution, it absolutely helps to move the needle in that organization.
That's awesome. So what is the biggest challenge that this industry faces, and how are you equipping your clients to deal with this?
Yeah, so for me, I'm not necessarily industry specific, other than the small to medium-sized business. The problem that they've got is acquisitions are at an all-time high. People are exiting. Well, what does that do to the employees remaining behind? But the other bigger thing that's happening is we have a generational difference on what work looks like, right? But if you've got baby boomers out there still leading by the bootstraps and it's earn your dime before you get your time in your position, well, that's at complete conflict with the younger generations coming through, because everything they've been taught is you put your time in, you do your activities, and you level up, much like a gaming theory. Well, that doesn't work. I think that's the greatest challenge, because as baby boomers get closer, and they've retired, but they're not all en masse yet, that leadership knowledge, that organizational knowledge, to me is the greatest business threat that exists. And if organizations aren't planning for those exits of their team members, and some of which you'll never know, they're not going to come in and tell you, hey, Ron, I'm going to retire in 16 months, 5 hours, and 4. They're not going to give you that detail. It's just going to happen. And then you're going to be left with the, for lack of a better description, the Macaulay Culkin. Because now one of your major leaders who's been with your organization for 10, 15 years or more is walking out the door with all the organizational knowledge and tribal knowledge. That's huge. So it's helping with that, but it's also equipping, and I'm in the middle, I'm a Gen Xer. So how do I equip the generations behind me while honoring the generation that built the infrastructure, everything that we know in this country to the point of where we're at. How do I help bridge that gap? And so that's the unique challenge that I see specifically.
The key latch kids are very important to our society.
Yeah. Well, and every generation is a product of its environment, Ron. And
Yeah.
so the way that they were raised isn't necessarily, and as a whole, very different than what you and I experienced or boomers. So we've got to help close that gap a little bit because it is very, very different.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're just kind of know you a little bit personally, by the way, but we're going to get them to see you a little more personally, not too personally. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask you some quick questions. Just shoot me the answer, and let's see where this thing goes. You ready?
I'm ready to think on my feet.
Coffee or tea?
Neither.
Ooh, what is it?
It's an energy drink called Spark from Advocare. For whatever reason, coffee doesn't agree with my system, and I never got acclimated to tea. So I get something that's a little bit more healthy and get some vitamins in the morning.
That works. Hey, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
All right. Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
The one that has stuck with me all the way back to my undergraduate days is by Zig Ziglar. It's when success is achieved when it meets preparation. Right? People don't just wake up and achieve, and success is suddenly it's being informed and taking the right steps. So that's one that kind of governs a lot of what I do.
Favorite movie or streaming series?
You know, I am pretty diverse in pop culture. I'll go genre. How's that? Anything that's a really good thriller that makes me think and is also entertaining, right? So I can't think of any right off the top of my head that fit that, but you know, I love some of those. One of the famous streaming ones was Supernatural, right? So little fun, little humor, but you're trying to figure out what's going on. But those kind of things that make me think and also be entertained.
Favorite book?
Favorite book? Oh my gosh. Honestly, I would probably have to go with The Carpenter by John Gordon. It is a phenomenal read for business owners. And it really gets to the essence of your presence of what you do and how you do it. And it's one that resonates with me. Very powerful message, very good, very easy read, but it's a powerful one. The Carpenter by John Gordon.
One last question.
All right.
One bucket list item that you've already accomplished and one bucket list item that you have yet to accomplish.
So one that I'm close to accomplishing because of my background, I've got 2 degrees in education, master's is from A&M. And is in higher ed. And we're close to accomplishing the empty nest. I feel very confident that as my kids go and grow, we've done everything we can do in our household to prepare them for that next journey in life. That's very important to me. Sometimes overly important where my kids are like, Dad, right? But, you know, again, it goes back to that preparation. It goes back to having those conversations. And then the other bucket list that I'm working on goes back into this one here. And then the Traveling Texans is crazy enough as it is. I've got a vision that if everything goes the way that it's planned, I wind up getting me a good-sized RV, my book and other things. I'll be out training and speaking in the different major regions and NFL cities, tailgate on the weekends, and then go to the next city, tailgate on the weekends for an entire football season. So all 18 weeks on the road, but speaking and then tailgating, and then speaking and tailgating, and just having a really good time.
I love it. By the way, I've got to say, go Bears.
I'll give you some of the Bears, right?
All right. So the most important question, though, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, best way to do that is to go out to my website. You can also find me on LinkedIn. The website is www.motivationaltransitions.com, or you can abbreviate that MTRAN, MTRAN.com. I own both. I'll be happy to connect, happy to share any way that I can be of a resource to your success, because that's what motivates me. That's what drives me. Again, Ron Klinger on LinkedIn, easy to find, and then motivationaltransitions.com.
Ron, it was great having you today. I appreciate the time and the insights. It's been entertaining and valuable.
And Ron, it's been an absolute pleasure sharing our names and the microphone with you, sir.
There
Thank
you
you for
go.
the opportunity to be a part of the process.
All right, Ron.